Field research, I think, can make you stand out as a debater. Field research is something that happens mostly in the science world. This is where you go and gather information yourself. And I know this is a really dumb, no-duh thing to say, but I think sometimes it's easy to take advantage of it. Research only exists, you guys, because someone went out and found it, right? They figured it out. And then we're lucky that we don't have to go to, like, I know this is such an old person thing to say, but for real, you guys, back in the day, you had to physically go to a library, then you had to ask the librarian to help you with what was called the card catalog, which were these little drawers that you went through and found it's literally a card, and then you found the subject you were looking for, and then the card catalog card told you where in the library to go find the book. Then you had to go pull the book off the shelf. Then you had to read the book and hope that it had the thing that you were looking for. And if it didn't, then you had to repeat that whole process. We really are pretty spoiled that we get to just Google something and boom, we have like 8 billion options, right? Yeah.
Did universities have to share their research, or if you wanted it, did you have to go?
Sharing was a lot harder than it is nowadays, right? So yes, there was a sharing system, but it was a lot slower and not as helpful. So when it comes to debate, I think that it could potentially make you more impressive if you get up and you're like, I have this awesome argument, and, Kaden, focus, and not only do I have this awesome argument, but I went out and I, on my own, found an expert in the field of this thing and got their expertise, and I'm going to present that to you now. As a judge, I would be like, oh, dang, right? That would not only show commitment, it shows a level of, like, logic that you're not used to as a judge. So I'm not saying you have to, but I have had kids do this before, some more successful than others. I've had kids do things like call their state senator, Austin Focus, on the phone. Please don't bring pencils. It hurts teachers' hearts. I've had kids who, like, if it was like a healthcare topic, they knew someone who their dad was like a doctor, and they went and interviewed that doctor specifically, right? So I'm just throwing this out there as an idea that if you want to stand out, you want to be extra impressive, you can literally even use the phrase field research. I did my own field research because I care about debate so much, and I care about success, and I care about understanding and knowledge so much more than any of my competitors, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So I would recommend not using the phrase "my dad," because immediately exactly, I would just treat it as real research, right? This dude with this name and these credentials. I would still use the phrase field research, but yeah, don't use the phrase "my dad" so it sounds more impressive. But otherwise, yeah, why not? If you know someone who is an expert, like my dad is a really big time, like, he makes software so people can create software. He's a huge software engineer dude. He was part of Linux, which is a software thing. Anyways, right, so if there was a technology topic, I could quote him as an expert. Yeah, absolutely. So here's what field research, and this is how we'll end. This is what it looks like, in the science world.
I'm a professor in the Department of Biological Sciences.
It's going to be about owls.
I'm project director or principal investigator on an NSF-sponsored project called a research experiences for undergraduate site. And our project is focused on raptor research. And
Raptors
so this
are
project
like
has
birds of
brought,
prey.
8 students to Boise State this summer to get some experience working on raptors and research focused on raptors. These are 2 of those students. One of them is Sky, and she has traveled from upstate New York. And the other one is Sarah, and she's one of our Boise State students. And so they are getting trained on how to do some research on burrowing owls. And so students are coming to Boise State to learn how to be undergraduate researchers, getting mentoring from a faculty member. And then they'll have the opportunity to present the research.
See how they're it's not called field research because you have to do it in a field, although just conveniently they are literally sitting in a field, right? Because these are the type of owls that literally burrow into the ground, but they're doing stuff like taking measurements, right? And investigating and literally gathering their own data. And so that's what I mean by field research. So on the actual assignment, I know for some of you it's been a while since you've done a vocab lesson with me. You are now going to give me your own example in the U-Try box, which you should do right now, to show me, yeah, I understand field research, and maybe even tell me for my type of speech or debate, here's maybe what I could gather for field research. So you grab that off of the field research assignment. I'll give you a second to think. I am curious. I want to hear like one or two of them who has an idea of field research they might be able to do for their type of speech or debate. So, what are you thinking for PF?
Going to talk to Miss Harris about health stuff.
And in that situation, I do same kind of like with what Anna said. I think that just saying like a teacher's name as though like Miss Harris. So instead, exactly. According to local health expert Brooke Harris, right? Instead of just a teacher that I happen to know. Yeah.
You could like talk to like a health or mental health professional thing like that. Mine's on pretty privilege.
Yeah.
So it could be on like how it like is different or even like a core reference stage. So how it
Yeah. Yeah, and I like how it's not always just like an expert in the field, right? Maybe it's somebody who that is their profession, or they have a PhD because that's what they studied for forever, right?
This is for like the last year topic, but I could have talked to my dad because he was an attorney.
Yeah, exactly. So if last year's topic was a lot about
That's what me and
patents,
Jax did. We
Exactly.
Had to go to my dad.
exactly, yeah, then you could have used your own field research.
This is for my second oratory speech, but I can talk to my roller derby coach, Radar,
Mhm.
about raising children in the roller derby environment.
Mhm.
It's about sports.
Yeah, if it's someone who's literally living the reality of the topic, why not use them as an expert? Yeah.
I have a neighbor who has family currently living in a
Oh my gosh. And so not only like that's why that topic is so important, right? And so, but then you also are going to get that emotional piece, that pathos, the emotional connection. And that's why, remember guys, anecdotal evidence, which is someone's personal story, is so powerful. Last two, and then we got to move on. Lucas.
Dr. Joseph Moore lives in Utah. He's part of the Forge Geothermal Energy Project.
Ooh, nice. Yeah, absolutely. You can call, you can email. Sometimes they respond, sometimes not. Last one, and then we got to move on. I'm so sorry.
Call like a government official or like a nuclear expert.
Now, I like that Beckett said that you could call a government official. So I'm going to tell you, I did have a couple of policy kids a couple of years ago, like 5 years ago, who they were really excited by the idea of field research, and they're like, what if we got the president? But I am going to be really honest with you. When you get someone who is famous enough or busy enough, and you contact them, usually it's someone on their staff who responds with a generic form letter, which is nowhere near as impressive as I literally went to the University of Utah, tracked down this professor who's taught this subject for 35 years, and interviewed him, right? There is a difference there's like, a spectrum in how impressive the field research is. So everyone turn... Exactly. But even then, usually it's only just going to be a generic form letter. Okay, everyone, so turn